What up, gamers? I'm Jason, and today on our latest episode of Kickstarter Excess or Value, we've got our special guests that will be introducing themselves in just a moment. If you do want to check out some more of our Kickstarter Excess or Value videos, you can find them down below in the video description. You'll have a card that will also pop up at the end of the video. You will also be able to learn a lot more about the likes and dislikes of our special guests. And today we are going to be talking about Earthborne Rangers, the first game from Earthborne Games. It is this new studio is being head up by Andrew Navarro, the former head of Fantasy Flight Games. We've got some big name developers like the Sadler brothers that have been working on it. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun as we get into this. So now I'm going to let our guests introduce themselves.
Hey folks, I'm Ryan of the Card Board Conjecture Podcast and Bridge City Board Gamers here in Saskatoon. Our podcast lands every Saturday where we have a whole bunch of topics and we offer opinions and conclusions on incomplete information. And then also we have our Wednesday podcast, which is What You've Been Playing Wednesdays, where we have a whole crew of Canadian content creators contributing to what they've been playing lately. Jason and Rob and Nana Marie are both contributors to that podcast. So thanks for having me on again, Jason.
Thanks for being here, Ryan. It wouldn't be the same without you. We need to have our the guy that leads us through all the pledges.
Hey everyone, it's Rob and
Anna Marie
from the Meeple Dungeon, and you can find us on Twitter and YouTube, and we also guest on Ryan's podcast weekly, the What You've Been Playing Wednesdays podcast, and we'll have our own podcast up and running here shortly as well. So, here we are. And thanks again, Jason, for having us. This is always a blast.
All right. This is going to be fun. Thanks again for joining us. So we will let Ryan take us through the pledges. And unlike our previous video, which I do think will add a little update as to where we are at with our pledges for Drunagor at the end of this video, we'll let Ryan take you through these two pledge levels that we got here. Well, there's three, but one's only for the pledge manager.
We don't count this. What do they call it? The Scout for $5 US, and that just gets you access to the pledge manager. But let's talk about the core set pledge. $80 US. $80 US. It's the Kickstarter exclusive price. They're saying $20 off the MSRP. And it's going to be including a full play set of approximately 500 cards, 70 tokens, a rule book, and the campaign guide, which is really, really, really quite interesting. So that's the basic. That's what we're getting.
Yeah, and I think that was a good time to talk a little bit about the positives that Earthborne Games is trying to bring to the board game industry, and that this entire pledge is supposed to be sustainably produced. So they're going to be looking at having FSC rated cardboard, FSC rated material for the card, and FSC is the rating for the Sustainable Forestry Commission. I think I'm saying that right. If I got it wrong, I'm sure someone will correct me down below in the comments. And that's why you're seeing that higher price point. Also, a major goal of this campaign is to manufacture locally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you'll notice even if you go down, there aren't your traditional. I'm talking about traditional in the sense that Kickstarter has evolved over the course of time, where we think that stretch goals are just going to add this and then add this and then add this. This campaign is not doing that. It's kind of like reminding me of what old Kickstarter, like we're talking about like old, like I'm so old here. Kickstarter back when it was first founded and first formed, and where you're kickstarting ideas. And that's exactly what they're kind of going for in this campaign, is that we can do this with the sustainable resources and the possibility of local manufacturing. We need help with doing that, and that's why they're running this Kickstarter. Yeah. I'm guessing, or unless if I'm jumping ship, I don't know if I'm doing this out of order already.
Oh, no, I think we're talking about the pledge, and it's important to talk about the sustainability aspect in a little bit. I think we don't want to go too deep into that while we're just discussing the value, but to be quite clear on where it's going, that sustainability is a key aspect of it. So I do think it features heavily in the conversation. And I definitely want to talk a lot about the regional manufacturing as we go further down the line. I believe Upper Deck is one of the few card manufacturers that does still manufacture what would be locally in the US. And if you're looking at the cost of, say, a Legendary game, I don't believe they're producing sustainably, but they are significantly less than Earthborne Rangers for quite a lot of cards as well. Now, how that comes into play, I definitely think we need to dive into it, finishes on the cards, things like that. It's really interesting exactly what Earthborne is trying to do.
Yeah, that's one thing I read about here on this campaign was that opened my eyes. They were talking about, down the line when this game ends up in a landfill or in the compost, hopefully in a few hundred years or whatever, right? Not that the cards generally, like in most board games, have that film on them that once they do decompose, they leave behind like the little plastic beads, which I was unaware of. I had no idea. It makes sense now that I think about it, but I guess the film that they're going to be adding to their cards won't leave behind anything at all. And I thought that was really cool to hear. It's something I had no idea about, but totally makes sense. But cool to see that they're doing that. That's really neat.
I think it's really tricky to talk about the specific value of this pledge because a lot of the value is in terms of the manufacturing and where I think I'd like to have a lot more details. I don't necessarily think you're getting bad value, but I mean, Miniature Market, and we're going to use them as an example. I know a lot of our viewers are in the US. I picked up Legendary Buffy, and I'm using that as an example because it has a lot of cards, probably some of the most cards out of any of the Legendary games. Like that, they were able to sell that for $25. So that tells me that they either got it at an MSRP of $20. Yeah. So are we paying just for the sustainability, or because this is Earthborne Games' first game, are we also, contributing to getting this company operational? Is this, because it does seem like this is a one-man show. Now, I mean, Kickstarter is all about hopes and dreams, at least it was originally before it kind of turned into a pre-order service. So it makes sense that we're contributing to that as well. But you have to ask yourself the question, is it just the cost of the game, or we got the game and the company running itself costs and what you want to contribute to and what that's worth to you?
Yeah. When you see
sorry, go Rob.
Yeah, no, just when you see the $80 price tag on the core set here, and you see it's just some cards and a few tokens and not much else. From a perspective of being used to a regular Kickstarter where everything's already made and they're doing it the cheap way and all these things, it seems off to me. But then when you look at it deeper into what these guys are trying to do, like you said, it's a one-man show that he's trying to get his company up and going, and he's sourcing out, he's doing a lot of the footwork and the legwork here to make this actually be reality with the sustainability aspect that no one else is doing. It's hard for me to separate what I'm used to seeing and valuing versus what he's putting in front of me here. So that's where I'm kind of at right now. It's a struggle for me to kind of see the value.
I'm on the opposite end of that. I think this one, when you're judging value in this game, we have to look at it from a different perspective. Because of what they are trying to do, I think the value is like you gotta have a different mindset, like your mind shift in how they're producing the game, and it'll basically come down to if I think you believe in what they're doing or not, right? Because when you look at the 500 cards and what you're getting, the value might not be there if you're just looking for a card game and that's it. But it's when you look at I think what they're trying to do at Earthborne Games and trying to start a change in thinking and in how
in the hobby in general, right?
In the hobby in general, and seeing like, okay, if I can make this successful, can we get other people on board with it? And, when you have more of the companies doing the same thing, it will bring costs down. But I'm not surprised at the price point with it being larger. He is still figuring out, the game and having those production costs and things too. So I think it is a bit of both, being the first game and, on his own, not having all the resources he was used to at, Fantasy Flight. You're kind of starting from scratch. And I think I was listening to the podcast that was attached to here, and he was saying it was a bit of a shock for him, just like, oh, right, I'm doing this on my own. I don't have all the same like contacts and resources that I used to. So it's, I think it is definitely a different type of value we have to look at.
Absolutely.
It's going to be really interesting. And there's the one thing that I'm going to just toss out there, and we'll come back to it. Will you sleeve this game depending on the quality? Because that's like one of those things where like, we'll get back to that. Go ahead, Ryan.
Good question. I like that. Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm just going to leap back onto what Rob and Anne-Marie were saying. We have to look at this definitely through a different lens, because we have nothing to compare this to. Like, when our past discussions, we're like Kickstarter aficionados. We've seen tons of things, and we know what to compare to and everything. And that's how we've been coming up with whether or not is this excess, is this value. But we haven't seen a campaign. Pretty much it's going to try to define, at least that's what I'm getting out of it. They're trying to define a new way to produce a game, locally, sustainability.
With a smaller footprint.
With a small footprint. Is this one is like I don't know, like in law and lawyers and everything. Is this campaign going to set a precedent for maybe future campaigns that want to do? If this is successful and it comes to fruition, I think there's going to catch a lot of people, and then there's going to raise a lot of eyebrows and say, we might be able to do that. But eventually I think it's going to be decided by the consumers.
Absolutely.
Whether or not this is something that we want to buy into now.
Well, when you look at it just off the top here, they had a pledge goal of 100,000 American, and he's almost at 2. So he's already doubled his pledge goal. So I'd say that's his first success already. It's like enough people are believing in it, double the amount.
I'm a little skeptical of Kickstarter goals, and as much as I want to give Earthborne Games like credit for doing very well, listening to the podcast, I know Andrew has been working with Chip Theory Games, and Chip Theory does make some great products, but like a lot of the companies that use Kickstarter all the time, they go with a lower funding goal to say get funded in 2 minutes, funded in this amount of time for marketing. So as much as I do think it's a positive, and I'm fairly sure that this is a more realistic goal, I still have to take it with a grain of salt because of the marketing aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, delivery will be a whole other thing. But yeah, I
think that was my favorite, probably one of my favorite parts of this campaign so far is that stretch goal, because we've talked about it a lot. Like Ryan was saying earlier, with the stretch goals having, like they were already part of the game, right? Like they made them, they knew they were going to be part of the game. Whereas Navarro had said, like, I want the best version of the game to go out. I don't want to have all these extra add-ons. And I think that with what he's trying to do with making it more sustainable, having the stretch goal being like regional, like production and ship, it'll lessen our shipping costs as well, especially right now with what's going on with shipping. Again, and like he had touched on it, keeping like local workers and things like that in the companies. And I've said to Rob too, like, why don't we just have a board game production company in Canada? And he's like, it's not that easy, Anne-Marie. I'm like, I get it. But, like doing more things locally just makes sense. So if he can do this and get it off the ground, I think that's amazing.
I agree. I think that's one thing we should talk about, like, a little bit about the board game supply chain. I learned a lot about it actually from a Kickstarter that I was involved in that was just an epic disaster. And I suggest that anyone who wants to like have some fun, take a look at I think it's Overturned Sands of Time. That is an epic disaster. I think it almost brought like one of the a YouTube channel to its knees because of their promotion of it. So absolutely fascinating thing. Maybe I'll include it down below, but it's completely off topic. But really, maybe it's something we can do in the future. Kickstarter disasters and failures. What went up in flames and do an analysis.
Love it.
I think we should move on to that all-in pledge.
Sure. So $80 was that core pledge, and now they jump up to the gameplay all-in $150 pledge. So we're increasing by $70. So you get the core set, and then you get what they call the Ranger card doubler, and an additional full play set of core set Ranger cards. So not like your not the exploration or travel cards or whatever they're calling them. Just the player cards themselves. You get another full play set. And then you also get another campaign, the Legacy of the Ancestors campaign expansion, which includes another full play set of 250 new Ranger and Valley cards and a new campaign guide. So
yeah, and I think
that's what you're getting.
That Ranger card doubler is just to give, if you're having 4 players playing this, I guess you have more options for when you're creating your character, is kind of what it sounds like. So that, I don't know, like maybe there's an item that we both want, the super bow and arrow, or something is something I want and you want, or something. Maybe if there's only one in the deck, and this would allow you to have 2 copies of it, kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like the card doubler is, I can have a friend buy into this game too, but all he needs is just the player cards. He doesn't need the locations, or I think they're calling them the Valley cards here. He doesn't need those. He just needs player cards if he's going to play with me or something like that.
I think I'm going to go on the opposite side. I think that this pledge is bad. Like I'm going to call it out as I see it.
I never said it was good.
2 base copies of Lord of the Rings, the LCG. I've got 2 base games because that's what you needed for 4 players. That's what you needed to have like your sets of cards. And look, they just put out, like they have the revised edition of Arkham Horror. So you don't have to do that anymore. And Marvel Champions, you don't need to do it either. Like this just smells like old FFG now on Kickstarter. I don't think there's a point to this Ranger doubler. It's 10%. It's $10 off MSRP. And how many people are really going to be getting together and playing this as a full campaign legacy with 4 players? Like, I get what's going on here. I think there could be I think there should be a better gameplay all-in pledge, or we shouldn't need these extra cards. Like, it's
usually what you see with
I don't know.
Like this.
FFG moved away from it. It just bugs me. Sorry for interrupting there.
No problem. It's usually with these types of pledges, you usually don't get the thing like the Ranger card. Usually you just get like the expansion added in. That's usually what this type of, when they say gameplay all in, they have already said that you get a full play set of cards in that original core set. So it just leaves to speculation is like, why would somebody really need a double set of Ranger cards?
I think, like when I was looking into it, and I have a double opinion on this one too. Mm-hmm. I think that like the purpose of having those, like you had touched on, is like you said, the full, just like the initial one will work for any player count, but having those extra ones can let, like if you were both say wanting to use maybe the same aspect, you can kind of both build around when you're building up your character. But what I didn't, like the main thing I didn't really, because again, I see it, why would I need a full extra set of cards if I can play the 1 to 4 player game with what I get? I didn't like how it didn't, it wasn't a bundle, like this campaign, because when you're adding the $70, when you're looking at like the add-ons, the cards I think were 30 and the other part was the expansion was 40. So it's not like, if I'm going to be getting this all in pack, I feel like it should be like maybe $20 off of getting them individually, like have some kind of a package deal. Otherwise it I don't know. I thought that should have been in there a little bit.
Yeah, it is a weird pledge level because for that fact, like I would just like, because of me, if I were to pledge on this, I would love that expansion because eventually I would play through the thing. I would like some more stuff. Yep. So why wouldn't I just back the core set and then just go and add on the expansion? The expansion is just a separate add-on.
Exactly.
And it's the same price. The gameplay all in is, those two add-ons, they come out to $70 and then you're at $150. When I'm thinking about like a gameplay all in, or like I just went to check out the cost of the revised core set and we're still using USD instead of CAD here. Like the old core sets were about $40. So getting what you needed for 4 players just on the core set was $80. The new revised core set is $60. Like that's the kind of thing I would expect to see from like the card doubler. But I mean, I guess it is cheaper because it's only $30, but I don't know why you don't have a core box that just avoids that. I mean, that mentality is something that, the Fantasy Flight Games has moved away from and has been doing since they launched Marvel Champions when Andrew was still there. And I don't know why that design choice isn't reflected in Earthbound Rangers.
Yeah, just reading the description again here, the card doubler is giving you the more flexibility if you're going to be playing with a large player group. It explicitly stays there, which I think you've already mentioned that, Jason. These types of games, these types of card games usually don't get played with larger groups.
That consistently. Yeah.
No, consistently. Sure. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we all love Marvel Champions.
Yep.
Who likes playing Marvel Champions with 4 players?
Not me.
No. 2 or maybe 3, but 2. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're playing with a group of 4 players, you're better off just like scaling down the house so you can play it in a reasonable amount of time. So,
but it's also the same because I am an Arkham Horror player, and I can't see myself doing a campaign with 4 players. I just can't.
No.
It just boggles my mind.
No, so not talking about the content. I like the fact that there's a campaign expansion, but value-wise, I just don't think this is a really good pledge, and we just got to call them out on it. They needed to do something a little differently, a little bit more structured. I almost think that it would have been nice to have gotten the mats or something else in an all-in pledge with some discounts. I think we should move on to the add-ons. I don't have anything else to add about this gameplay all-in pledge except that
the add-ons are the interesting part here for sure.
Yeah. Because myself, I usually, as much of a big fanboy of these different types of card games and everything like that, I usually don't get the special playmat that goes with the game. I don't know very many people that do. I might be sitting with some people that like those special, like the last specialty playmat that I got for a game was the Marvel Champions playmat, just because it looked freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But we've got the Ranger playmat for 1 player, 13.5 by 23.5 inches, natural rubber play surface for 1 player, $30.
Yeah,
and that size is the your typical
standard
Magic the Gathering style playmat.
Yeah, and when it comes to the playmats, like I'm guilty. I love my playmats. I've got 2 Marvel Champions playmats because if I ever want to play with 4, I wanted 2 playmats to cover the area. I won't get any more. I don't know if anyone else has played Call to Adventure. I love the playmat because it just helps organizing the board. It's a small playmat, but you got spaces for acts 1, 2, and 3. You got spaces to put your cards. So you get a nice presentation. So the playmats that I like are the ones like the Valley playmat that'll help you just organize your play area at around that $40 playmat. That $40 mark. So that's what I enjoy. But $40 for a playmat is a little steep. I mean, the most expensive playmat I think I've ever purchased was the one for Rising Sun, and wow, that thing was huge. I think it's almost as big as a board game table.
I think we the last one that we've got, which we haven't received yet because it's still going, but we were talking about that the Valor and Villainy?
Yes.
That purple playmat. So that one was 40. And that again,
Yes.
But that was a double-sided, especially if you had the other one as well.
Mhm.
And the stitched edges, like that's
Yeah,
such a
it
good
was-
value.
Absolutely.
It
Top
was really
quality.
nice.
Yeah.
I love playmats as well. And I was, looking at these ones and, oh my God, they're nice. You don't really need them. But they are nice. And I was like, oh, it's not too bad, just thinking. And I was chatting with Rob about it. And he's like, but Anna Marie, that's per player. Like one player mat is 30. And I was like, oh,
Yeah. Like if you're a family of 4, okay, right? You got the 2 of you and say two teenage.
that's $120 for
Yeah.
the
right?
individual player mats plus then 40. That's $160
$160
US.
American dollars for 4
For
play
all the
mats
play
and then
mats.
the board, right?
And I got really bummed.
And here's the question. And I think you look like you want to say something, Ryan, and I'll give you a moment here. But we've all had mouse pads, right? And they peel up, and this is natural rubber. I've never heard of a natural rubber playmat.
Yep.
How well are these going to work?
And that's that's why I want one. I'm excited and interested to see how well they stand up because we love our neoprene, right? Like I love those play mats, and I'm really curious to see what this rubber one, how it, like I was wondering, like, can you roll it? Does it have to be stored flat? Will it peel? Will it crack? Like, I don't know they look nice. Looks like they can.
Those
so
are
I'm
all
curious.
valid concerns, but the one thing is I'm not ready to spend $160 American to find out.
Yeah, well, I think that, getting the Valley one maybe to lay out
maybe
the main
the core,
cards.
but buying 2 or 3 or 4 of those
Yeah.
Ranger playmats and they might peel. Oh, good Lord. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ryan.
So no, Anna Marie and Jason both hit it on the nail with the natural rubber, and that was going to compare it to the mouse pad, which is exactly what they ended up doing. Okay, the player mat. Card game players are going to be drawn into this because they know the name Andrew Navarro and the Sadler brothers, and so we know that I think card game players are going to make up a large percentage of the people backing this game. Card game players, we have play mats already.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing really standing out from this playmat other than the art. The art is pretty cool. It's not $30 cool. And it really doesn't really organize. Like there's not a lot of different spots that organize my play cards that I can't keep track of on my own, like Magic the Gathering or Dragon Ball Super or whatever play mat that I have, my Marvel Champions play mat, Excess, those ones. The Valley playmat, like that's for those people like Jason that likes to organize their playing areas, and they have the spots for like the encounters and these things. I can't zoom in right now on I can't read exactly what those say. Missions and weather and landscapes along the way. If you're that type of player, experiment, but I don't think you need to buy a bunch of these Ranger play mats.
Yeah.
Not at $30 off.
With the whole focus on sustainability, I'm really wondering why these aren't boards. Like, I get why they want to do rubber. Players, like, as you said, Ryan, is a great point. Card players have playmats, but we're trying to do something different here. And this is Earthborne Games' first game. I think having maybe boards or playmats, maybe that could have been an option. But if there was a bunch of player boards that were, say, $10 each and a $20 board, I'd be like, oh yeah, like, okay, I'm all in for this stuff because boards work just as well as neoprene playmats.
Absolutely. We had this discussion yesterday where I just don't. So for the $80 core pledge, if they had a cardboard version of this Valley mat and 4 cardboard versions of the Ranger playmats in there, I would see that being an okay pledge level, even though I'm still a bit skewed from not fully, understanding what we're doing with this campaign. But the fact that the only option for these is these rubber mats that are $30 and $40 a piece, irks me. I just wish that there'd be some cardboard versions of these available. And if I chose to upgrade to these, then so be it. But I just don't get it.
No, it's perfectly valid points. You could have made this much more sustainable, much more cheaper.
If you're a solo player, it maybe not as bad, right? Like $30 for one player mat, and then that's it. But if you're, well, no, I'm just saying, like, if somebody wanted it for like one player, it's not as much of a hit. But if you're, like, if I'm buying a 1 to 4 player game, I would want to have like everything matching. I wouldn't want to be the only one sitting there with this nice mat, be like, you chumps can use the table.
Yeah. I agree. It's kind of all or nothing.
Consistency, right? It would look nicer on the table. So for me, it would be like either we get them or we don't. And but it's a solo.
I just don't see how there's not a cardboard version of these. I don't get it. I think it's an easy thing they could have had. They could fold up and sit in a box. I don't know.
And maybe that's a test for them too, seeing like, are they going to sell them? Are they not? Maybe this.
I have a hard time seeing somebody buy 4 Ranger playmats. I have a real hard time.
I think so too. And
I could see some couples buying 2 begrudgingly, but
2 playmats is almost the cost of the game.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like if you went in and you bought the Valley mat, 4 Ranger playmats, and the core game, or the all-in pledge, this is like a $400 game.
Yep.
That's not good with me. No way.
Yeah.
Like
and that's why we wouldn't get the playmats. I think it would be
like, holy, like you're closing in on $400 for a card game.
Well, I mean, comparison, if you're looking at like, Awakened Realms and other games that I've put a lot of in for an all-in pledge, including grabbing things like the art book, which we'll talk about next. Like, you're right, you're getting up there with a lot of plastic as well to that $400 or $500 mark. So it does, like I said earlier, I think there's a sustainability cost, but I feel there might be some of the companies getting going cost in here. And that's kind of where I ask myself a few questions, and we'll talk about that as we continue. But what does everyone think about this, the world of Earthborne art and lore book?
I think it sounds cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fan of these art books. Like they're never something that I absolutely need, but the art of this game is super. I'm digging it. I don't know if I want to buy a book, but
it's kind of like Breath of the Wild, Link. If you guys played that for the Nintendo, kind of that's what it reminds me of.
I don't know. I myself wouldn't buy a book, especially since I've got the cards. The lore would be neat, but I mean, I feel like that could be something even that was on a website.
Yeah, like
it's unfortunate that a lot of the board game lore doesn't get put up on websites. I mean, I've started buying some of the art books just because, I mean, the lore for Street Masters is really cool. Like you get some art, you get like this giant, like 2-page backstory for every character. And in the game, every character has their own individual story. So I bought it. I'm like, this is awesome. Haven't had time to dive into it, but quite a few times I've picked up the art book. I've not been disappointed when it really dives into the lore behind it, because you get a nice flavor for the world that you're playing in. And I did the same thing with Mystia and Volfirion, and I really enjoyed those art books because the art was fantastic. So I don't see anything wrong here. It's a standard cost for an art book, and I think anyone that gets it will enjoy it.
I just raised the thing, if we wanted to keep this sustainable, do you really need to print the book? Then this could be put up on that you could pay X amount of dollars and they could put it up on a server and you can view it on a server. It doesn't don't have to be able to download it or anything, but I can go on ahead and I can read the lore and stuff like that via that.
Well, it's going to be sustainably stored and it's supposed to become compostable, as with everything about the game. But I do see what you're saying, Ryan. I mean, we're not at the point where it's, everything is going to be neutral impact, right? So if sustainability is your goal, is this something that you're selling because you want to sell it and you need products to sell, or is this about what you're doing?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think the lore should be up on a website at this point.
Yeah.
I think the lore being up on a website might get me to pay that $80 value. I might have launched the lore website like during this whole campaign.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I don't think it's a bad price for the.
No, it seems reasonable,
Yeah.
but kind of against, the theme that he's got going on here. Just something that we could look at online for an additional $5 charge or something might have been a better way of doing it.
And then we've got the Earthborne Rangers, the Legacy of the Ancestors campaign expansion for $40. I mean, we talked a little bit about this. I mean, going with everything else, I think it's priced at the right spot. It's 250 new cards, a new campaign book. It's half of what you got in the main box, and it's really priced at half price. I don't have much to add to
I think that's fine.
Yeah, it seems reasonable.
Yep, and if you want to be able just to keep on playing the game, because I haven't explored what the replayability of this type of game is going to be. I don't think that many people know that yet, because it is advertised as that open world exploration, kind of go do what you want type of thing. There's side quests, main quests types of thing. I really don't know how replayable that's going to be. Am I going to start up a whole brand new campaign with a brand new character? Maybe. How many times am I going to play this? How many times am I going to play this is going to factor into that value.
And I think that'll definitely factor in. And that's something that I had actually said to Rob, because I'm not the video gamer at all. And I would sit and watch him play
Skyrim
and
things like that.
Yeah, Oblivion and like that, where the open world and I love watching it, and I wish I could play it. And I was looking at the layout of this, and I was like, oh, this will be a way for me to get to play the video game without actually playing the video game.
That sounded a little weird that you said you wish you could play it like you were allowed. You are definitely allowed to play it.
I am
let's not get that wrong. No. She's allowed to play the game. She chooses not to.
I am not good with video games. My controls, I am terrible.
Yes,
but I enjoy the stories.
Play video games.
Yeah, I enjoy the stories, so I'll watch them. But that's why this is it's like the board game version. So I think that opens it up for me, anyways, to try out that. And it sounded similar. Not like, and this is going to sound off, so just take it for what it is, but it's kind of like Gloomhaven, where you've got your main quest, and then you've got a bunch of side branches that you can go off and explore different things. So you can divert quite a bit from the main campaign and then come back. And that's what this one sounds like. So it is neat having the extra content going sideways, and then you kind of pick how you want to do it. So I think it sounds promising that way. I think it looks interesting. I like.
I think it does.
I like the idea of the game too. It has that's one thing again with this campaign. Everything is positive. Like, this is a post-apocalyptic game that where everybody banded together and actually did save the world.
Yeah.
Instead of everybody destroying it. And then we're all fighting factions afterwards, right? Trying to stake our claim. So we're all working together.
It's interesting you point that out. And I really liked listening to Andrew talk about like cynicism in sci-fi, and being a big Star Trek fan. One of the things that kind of like is almost like a dagger in my heart here. I hate the fact that cynicism has now infected Star Trek. So for those of you that like the new stuff, okay. But I gotta say, I miss my humanity did it right after the post-apocalyptic thing too. Now, humanity is still bad. We just have all this cool technology. I mean, there's plenty enough sci-fi for that. So I really like the fact that Earthborne Rangers is going in this other direction, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think the last add-on.
Oh, you gotta take this one away. After what happened with our Valor and Villainy section, this is all you, Ryan.
Yeah, totally.
So we got the Deluxe Energy Token Set, 16 high-quality bioplastic energy tokens for 1 to 2 players at $30 for 16 tokens.
Wild. That is wild.
And I'm assuming this is just a prototype render thing that they've got compiled on the screen here, because these things don't even look good.
They look horrible. They look like tiddlywinks.
2 players. So for 4 players, once again, double it.
Yeah.
I've just got a major problem with these in every way you can look at them. I think that render looks gross. $30 for a 2-player bundle of them is crazy to me. And why the whole campaign is the sustainability, and I get it. I get these are apparently bioplastics. Okay, I get that. But why? Why have any plastic at all? These should be wood or cardboard, period.
Well, I 100% agree with everything that. Now it says a set of 16, the energy tokens. So that's just the energy tokens. I go back up here and I look at what the core pledge has. There's over 70 different tokens in the game. And so we're only just going to give you a deluxe upgrade for some of them.
Yeah, then this is one where I think, again, the cardboard ones look totally fine.
Oh, yeah, they look beautiful.
They look better.
I wouldn't need to upgrade those at all.
And talk about sustainability. Like, I get it, like these are these plastics that I guess will biodegrade over time or whatever, but why even bother? Why even go this way at all? It just seems the opposite of what I would expect in this game. Any sort of plastic of any sort. You know, you have the option for wood, you have the option for cardboard.
And how to play, they're using wood tokens. So I kind of figured that they were wood in the first place. I thought that was kind of a neat, cool throwback, but I guess they didn't want to use wood because of the painting of said wood instead of staining it or something like that. So I get why we're seeing bioplastic, but like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of this. I don't think the game's there yet. Like, I feel like we were talking about the playmats and everything else, you're asking for a lot of stuff up front on this game, and a lot of it is very pricey because of the way you want to produce it. So, I mean, if you're all about everything, I think you're going to maybe buy in, but you're all of a sudden taking this game like a full set for 4 players. Let's like do the math on here, because I think we've now covered everything, but we're starting with the gameplay all-in gets us to 150. We said the playmats were 160
for 4 players.
For 4 players, yeah. So
yeah,
that brings us up to
310.
Add another 60. We're at 370 US. So 400. The total will come up to 400 USD, taking this thing to about $500-600 Canadian.
Which seems insane to me.
Yeah.
Like beyond anything I could ever believe. I can't imagine this game showing up, right? And I've got it on my table with this box of these cards and these tiddlywinks and some player mats. And I'm like, I just spent $500 and something on this. Like, no way, man.
So
no way.
Let's bring it back to perspective, because this arrived, and I know Ryan backed this as well. Marvel United, when we bought it and we went all in, was $350 for almost like 12 boxes of stuff.
Yes.
Like, it's not sustainably produced. I get it, but
we killed the environment on that.
Yeah.
But the giant box, the value that you got out of it, it's just so different. And I think we need to talk about like what's good about the campaign now. I think we've talked enough about the pledges. We've really kind of, I think we kind of put the nail into where we see the excess of the campaign right now. Mm-hmm. Let's go into sustainability and like how it's important to us. I know for Julie and myself, it's very important. We try to do as much composting and recycling as we can. Like, we've really tried very hard to reduce our impact, and we don't have to take out the garbage as often as we used to. Unfortunately, we do have a baby in the house, which changes everything, but we were doing, I think, like almost like once a month for a while there, which was, I thought we were doing pretty good.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. We called the city and got the extra huge recycling bin so that we exchanged it for the little one for the big one. And we jam that thing full every week. That thing is jammed full, and our garbage is half full usually, kind of thing, but like, we do our part for sure when it comes to that.
We try anyways, and
we've done good, and you've really pushed me to go further than I used to, right? So I think we've done really well on that part.
Yeah, we're in the same boat here. Like, our garbage can barely, because we got in here in Saskatoon here, we just got we got 3 bins, but the one bin barely gets used. We got the compost bin, we got the recycle bin. Those are the ones that get like 95% of the stuff. And it's been hard in a heat wave to try to reduce like our emissions from like our power and stuff like that, like trying not to run our air conditioner as much. It's been very tough. That's just leaving the windows open and the doors open and sweat it out a bit, hang out in the basement more.
The smoke the visibility with the smoke here right now. We can't even like leave any window, anything open, or else our house gets smoked out.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's horrible.
But that aside,
but we agree, if we could, we would shut that down and open up, and for sure. But we'd die here if that was the case.
I really love what the whole concept of Earthborne Rangers. We talked a little bit about it. I really like the idea of this is, the not so far future, but still quite, far into the future. And it's all about protecting the earth and the valley. And I really like the fact that there's high-tech ruins and people don't really know what the ancestors did. I like the idea that we were on the brink, and maybe like things were really bad, but we fixed the earth. And, there were some negative side effects still with some crazy creatures that were created and things that got out because we saved the planet. Like, the concept is fantastic. And I love the fact that we're also tying sustainability into it, but talking about that aspect. There's some negatives I want to bring up later on, but I think it's something that's really important for the industry. And I want to talk about Funko Games a little bit here, because I think they've done a good job in some aspects. Like, they now use the stickers on their boxes.
Yes.
Instead of saran wrapping the outside, but they're now saran wrapping the damn boards and the tokens inside. I'm like, you took it off the box and now you put it in the box. It just drives me nuts. Like, just get rid of it altogether. And I love the fact that this game is looking at all those little things that are happening. And whereas a company gets better, sometimes they get worse. So it's like, oh yeah, we don't have plastic wrap. Yeah, you do. It's just not marketed in everyone's face anymore.
Yeah. I want to just make a point on these too, that in my opinion, this is a very important Kickstarter campaign for the hobby.
Absolutely.
A lot of people need to pay attention, and especially if you're a company, publisher, or anything like that is caring about the environment, and you've got those things in your mission statements for your companies. Pay attention to what Andrew's doing here with his company here. There's obviously, this has been the first Kickstarter. He's got some things that he has to work through apparently and everything like that. But this is bringing to light what the costs of manufacturing locally and sustainably. People got to pay attention to this. I think this is going to set a precedent for the hobby.
I hope so.
I don't know if this ever happens to you guys, but do you ever get it where you hear of something, whether it's a word you've never heard of or a concept or something, and then as soon as you hear about it, then you're just like hearing about it everywhere all of a sudden out of nowhere? Mm-hmm. That happened to me with this. So I, when I was reading through this campaign, I read top to bottom. I watched all the videos. I listened to the podcast. Like I read everything on it, and even did more just research of questions, especially looking into the bioplastics. Like, I was reading more about it, and listening to the podcast and reading the article that was written. One of the things that he mentioned was Patagonia, that company. And earlier this week at work, I had to watch a clip for something at work, and it was all on Patagonia. And I was like, oh, what a neat company. I was very intrigued by it. And then to hear that he read this book about Patagonia, and that like, oh, maybe I can look at it. Like maybe it is possible for me to try doing this in the board game industry and seeing if I can do my part to, like people want to make things, but maybe we can try to make them so they're being as, least harmful to the earth as possible. Right. So I thought that was kind of funny that I heard that at the same time. And I think Ryan, exactly what you said, I think it is important. And I think that, I think this is an important campaign. And I think that it should be looked at.
I agree with everything. I think that this is an awesome idea. I think everything about sustainability is a great idea always. But there's also a line of affordability.
Yeah.
And I know this is the first campaign, this is the first kick at the can and all that. So I know that, things might not be valued properly here or there. And because he doesn't have some things figured out at this point, I think, right? Like he's still kind of working on a lot of aspects.
And I think that's something that we definitely want to talk about, like just, in a few minutes. I want to keep focusing on like all of the positives that we want to bring to light here, because I really love the fact that, we're looking at getting like sustainable forests, that everything is focused on sustainability.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, as you're saying, Rob, there's a line. I'm wondering if this campaign maybe has gone so far over the line that we're pushing the boundaries of affordability. And I think there are some moments where I ask the question, but I'm not as concerned about the core game. I think there's something there in what you're getting in the box in the core game, and then what you're potentially getting out of the expansion. And I'm interested. I want to back this game, but there's a few things that have me a little bit hesitant. And one of those questions I asked before, will I sleeve this game? That is a big question for me, because I really want to know. I really want to know. And I don't see the answer here. I just don't see it.
Do you take this sustainable game and then go out and buy 5 packs of Dragon Shield plastic sleeves to put them in? It's kind of like an oxymoron.
It's an honest question.
But so here's a good example, because Upper Deck is, and we're going to keep talking about the good stuff, and then we'll move on to all the other stuff. But Upper Deck is manufactured locally, and Legendary's card quality is not great. I've sleeved all of my Legendary games. We play them, like the first couple times I played them, they started getting damaged. It's not great. Like, I don't know what the card stock and the card quality is going to be for this game. It could be a reality, especially of a long campaign game with a lot of replayability. How is my deck of cards going to look after 30 plays of this game, 40 plays of this game? Especially when we're talking about using these new different types of, sealers for the cards rather than the plastified one. I mean, you're going to be shuffling your deck. This isn't Aeon's End where there's no card shuffling. I love that game. Part of the reason I love it, I don't need to sleeve it. The only cards I shuffle are like few and far between. They're the Nemesis cards. And even then, if you shuffle them carefully, they won't get damaged because you don't shuffle them often. So you're good.
Yes, we don't want the cards to biodegrade while we're playing.
Right.
Unless if that's the point of the game, then you have to go buy the cards again. Maybe that's why we have the Ranger doubler.
Preparing you to...
my cards are so worn now. I have the extra box. I can bring them back in.
And that's where I think the line discussion is interesting. These cards are better for the environment, but at what cost are they better for the environment? Like, not like fiscally, but like from a hobby standpoint.
No, and
it's just like are these cards going, like you said, are these cards going to start falling apart on my third or fourth hour of playing this game, to the point where I need to buy sleeves and it's just counterintuitive to what we're doing here? Or like, it's just, I don't know, like it's like, maybe they should have started with a single aspect of sustainability rather than like everything being sustainable. Like try putting out a small card game with this idea, and not an $80 Kickstarter, putting out some sort of small card game that you could have tried this kind of scenario out for a few years, and then if it worked out well, you could apply it to a board game.
Well, I think that's just, and this will probably start shifting into the negative, but I want to say I really appreciate them going all in on the sustainability. I think it's important. I think that's also the way Andrew is. He's a former head of Fantasy Flight Games. Like, he's not going to leave FFG and go small. Like, he's going to make a company that's going to be something. Like, he rose through the ranks, got up there. Asking him to go and do a small market game just wouldn't have worked. Now, the question is, and I really think it's a good point, is this something that maybe Andrew should have done as a smaller thing to get the engine running before going and starting his company, doing a smaller card game? Hey, I'm Andrew Navarro. We're doing this side project, and then shift gears and move over. That's entirely possible. But I think the way that he's doing this, he didn't have much of a choice. It was going all in. This is a company. This is the thing. And I really respect him for it. But I think the biggest problem now is we got a high cost product, and we've got nothing to compare it to. I mean, we don't have listing of manufacturers. We've got listing of what they're going to try to do or what types of finishes may work. So a lot of this is still up in the air. And as Ryan said, this Kickstarter is a lot of hopes and dreams. And I do feel like Andrew will be able to get this produced. The question is going to be, is if it actually gets produced locally, is it going to meet the quality that people are going to want to keep this going? Or is this going to be one of those things where people get in, they're going to be like, oh boy. And it could just be the kind of thing as you're saying, Ryan, this is really a test bed for the industry. And if it doesn't go well, is this going to maybe put sustainability back in the box for 10 years? Which I think is also something that people should be concerned about.
Yeah, because if it's successful and other people want to try and do it, and the more people that will get into it would not necessarily increase the costs of this type. It could potentially actually just might start making it more competitive, and then therefore start driving down the costs of some of these. Because I'm a company that can produce your cards for you. I'll beat their price to everything. Maybe we just need competition.
Definitely
in the industry.
More companies buying in, right? More companies buy in. You get that. I think that I loved the way in the campaign, more towards the bottom, they're showing like every aspect of the game and how they're trying to be sustainable with it. So that was neat, because it seemed like every time as I was going through it, I would be like, well, this seemed kind of vague. And I was almost looking at it, not in a negative light, but I was like, well, this seems weird. And I was getting skeptical. Then it would get answered. I would, like, later on in the campaign, I'd be reading something like, oh, well, that's why. And I liked that every time I had kind of I was like, oh, then I found the answer. But as far as like the line, I get what you're saying with it. But the way I look at it is, I think what he might find in this campaign is, you might get a lot of the $80 backers for the core pledge. And then potentially, whichever ones, I think he might find that he won't get a lot of the playmat pledges. I'm not sure if he would get a lot of the bioplastic, pledges there. I think it'll really help him to see, and maybe that was part of his idea too, like, what are people wanting? This is my idea for making it sustainable. What are people looking for? And, I think the numbers in what people pledge are going to show him that, and could drastically change his next one, right? Maybe he just doesn't offer those things that aren't going to sell. Maybe he just finds that people don't find them important, maybe, like in these campaigns.
So I think that was a good point, because we have some skepticism, and I think we should switch over to the negative. I just want to make one final summary. I think we all agree that we love the idea of Earthborne Rangers, the theme, the world. We're all behind it. This is a game that we want to back, but there's just a few things that have kind of kept us out of, making that leap. And the one thing I'm going to just speak as a counterpoint to Anna Marie, where I get what he's doing and what he's trying to figure out. Here's my problem with it, though. You're now Earthborne Games. You're not Fantasy Flight Games. And you've just taken the Fantasy Flight game model of, well, besides the upgraded token, that's the Chip Theory and Kickstarter game model. But you've taken the model, you've thrown it up on Kickstarter, and you're pitching it as this sustainable thing. And while I get why, I would have rather seen a few things sort of just a little bit rethunk, because I feel like there's a lot, and I'm not sure how much per pledge, but I mean, if, Upper Deck can produce unsustainable card games, that can be sold for $20, why is Earthborne Rangers $80? Why isn't it like, 40 or 60? I think there's almost like $20 a pledge in there. And this is just me guessing. I could be completely wrong. That is maybe just going into the company war chest for whatever's going on himself. And I get it. Like, he took a big risk. So I feel like we're funding two things here. I feel like maybe we're funding Earthborne Rangers, the game, and Earthborne Games, the studio at the same time. And I wonder if it's just a little bit much.
Yeah, I listened to both of the Team Covenant podcasts. One, they interviewed Andrew Navarro, and then the second one, they were just the two guys talking about the game. From what between those two interviews, or those two discussions, the profit margin here is like non-existent, it seems, based off of Andrew's comments and what the two guys at Team Covenant have mentioned. So I'm just going to throw that in there. I don't think this campaign is going to let him retire overnight.
Yeah,
that's kind of concerning.
No, and I hear what you're saying there, Ryan, and I listened to that as well. But the question is, with regards to profit, how much is it? I mean, and this is Kickstarter, right? So everything's a little different. We don't actually get to see where anything goes. There's no open books. There's no anything. Like, how much is going not necessarily to salary, but to like keeping Earthborne Games afloat? I can't imagine that he'd be doing something with such a small profit margin that the company isn't going to be able to keep going at that point. And when you see those bargain basement card game MSRP costs at $20, why is this $80? And maybe it could be something to do with the high quality finish for that legacy game. There could be really good reasons. And I just don't see the cards. Like, I don't have something in front of me to see yet. So, this is the dream. You're back in the dream. And I'm wondering if Kickstarter's gone past that point where we're like, we'll back the dream. And I think maybe that's me a little cynical after a few flamed out Kickstarters. And it's like, I'll back the dream, but I kind of want to see the prototype before I back the dream. Like, where's the prototype?
Yeah. No, we're jaded at this point in our Kickstarter careers. Cause like I said, near the beginning, this is a throwback to the early days of if you believe what he's trying to do here, give him the money, give him the money. What he does with it, God only knows. And everything like that. Hopefully we get our product and these people get their product and everything, but we are funding. I think in this, are we fund? I think we are funding the dream here. He's trying to see if it can work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just have a problem with just what you said about the interview with him, with the $80 being, the prices where they're at right now is a very, very slim profit margin, right? So for an order, let's say that's he's making next to nothing off this. So in order for him to be doing well off this game, he would have to be charging what, like $100 American for the core box?
Well, and that is the price, actually. That's where he's gone with the MSRP is $100 American. Sorry. I was just looking to see if I had one of my legendary games just to pull out and just to sort of compare in terms of the amount of cards. But
to me, it just seems $100 American if you wanted, if he's not eating any costs for a game like this, as what it is, what I'm seeing on the screen, just seems way out of whack for me, where I compare it to. And I know it's apples and oranges here with production companies, right? With a brand new guy versus Fantasy Flight. But when I see Marvel Champions for $60 Canadian, and then there's this, and he's telling me that he's not making any money at $80 American.
Well, he's not saying he's not making any.
No,
just
when you say you have razor thin profit margins, that's not. You're not doing great.
He said smaller. Like he didn't say he wasn't going to make anything.
No, but I know. But like if you come out and say something like that, right? That where it's like, oh, I'm not going to make a ton of money off this. Then that means that you should be charging more for it.
So and
it just seems like that price is crazy.
And I agree with you. And one of the things that I'm wondering is this. I would have liked to have seen Earthborne Games had a little bit more, as we said, like investment and building of this. I would have rather something smaller done when Andrew was still doing something else, or maybe done in partnership with, like, say, Chip Theory Games, for example. But I mean, Chip Theory doesn't do any like just pure card games, so that wouldn't work. But I would have liked to have seen the test run for this product, because I think this could be a lot bigger than it actually is. I think that this game, and even maybe refining some of the costs, as you're talking about, Rob, could have blown up to easily like, $500,000 to $1 million campaign. I mean, look at how popular these types of card games are. Mm-hmm. But when you're looking at the cost point that he's going with, plus the FFG model kind of slapped on Kickstarter, and I don't think it's doing well, but I can't say that this is probably lighting the world on fire.
I'm just going to bring a little thing in just because this is taking me back just right now. I got this brainwave of buying booster boxes of card games and stuff like that, just because another game that the Team Covenant people have been pumping up is the game called Flesh and Blood. I actually went and got a booster box, and you only get 360 cards in a booster box, and they're charging here in Canada, they're charging $90 for only 360 cards. And I don't know what it is for a Magic the Gathering booster box nowadays, if it's like 60.
About the same.
It's about the same. And you're only going to be you're not going to be getting 500 cards that are, and then they're going to be these, I don't know what, whatever they're producing, they're not sustainable because they're not advertising them as sustainable products and everything. I just had that brainwave and everything that I just bought a booster box of cards and got 500 cards.
The tricky thing with the trading card games, and that's when you got to start talking about the business model, and that's part of the problem of producing sustainably. If you look at like Wizards of the Coast and probably Flesh and Blood, a lot of these artists are on retainers. So one of the reasons why you're paying it such a high price is that the artists don't actually get paid for their like per image. Like they are just artists, and they get told like, here's your salary, here's your set, produce your art for us. So it's a very different model. And then most of the trading card games that aren't very successful, they cost a lot less. Flesh and Blood and Magic are just the hottest ones, and they're actually the speculation and that value that you get from selling your cards are just built into that pricing as well. And card game people are crazy. I was in one of my friendly local game stores in Gatineau, Quebec, and the owner got in a new set of Pokemon cards, and he always opens a box for himself. He was opening one up, and the guys were in there, and he goes, "Oh, I got this awesome rare card." One guy's like, "I'll give you $400 for it," and he sold it for $400 live on the spot. I was like, "Wait, what?
What just happened?"
What just happened? And then, I'm like, I go, "That's why you do your box opening in front of all of the crazy fans. Like you just open it up. Oh yeah, I got this one. Sell it. Gone."
Yeah. I know. I just kind of.
No, I think it's a valid point.
The dollar per card.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That was doing.
You're right.
The dollar per card is good, and I'm just talking a little bit about the business model. That's why I think I like the $80. Like I guess. Like for me though, I sleeve my cards. I sleeve everything that I'm going to play for a while. And this game wants me to play it for a while, a lot of time. It's a lot of replayability. And that's just a big concern for me. I'm going to buy this and then be like, I spent $80 and I just sleeve the whole thing, taking the whole sustainability message and throwing it in the trash. And that bothers me. That really bothers me actually. And it has me hesitant. I don't know how it affects anyone else.
Well, no, it would just be nice to know, to have something compare this to, a card game that had come out a year or two ago that used this version of cards, and you'd had it and you played it every other week for a few hours and they didn't get chewed up, and you knew like, oh man, this game's got those cards too. Like, this is easy. I'm going to buy this. I don't need to sleeve them. It's all going to be good. But chances are you are going to have to sleeve them.
Maybe somebody can lead us in the comments to something that's very similar in quality. Yeah.
It's just the unknowns are the frustrating part about this.
And there's the back there's the whole Kickstarter before days.
Yeah.
You didn't know what was going to happen and everything like that. You give some guy $60 and you may as well just flushed it down the toilet because that thing's never actually going to happen. Type. This is back to those days.
And I don't think that's going to happen with this game. I mean,
no, this game is going to get made.
No, it'll get made for sure.
One of the other things that's holding me back is I have a lot of Sadler Brother designs, and I don't know if, as you said, you haven't played a lot of them, but the setup is similar to Sentinels of the Multiverse. So if you want to get an idea as to what's going to be happening in the game, at least, with like an environment, a villain, you've got this sort of upper play area, and then stuff that plays down below you affecting your player directly. And I do like that model of play. I like the different ideas. Then I've got I've got pretty much every single Blacklist game by the Sadler Brothers, even with the different themes. I'm wondering if I'm just not starting to get burnt out on that I'll pick this up and I'll be like, I spent $80 on this, and it's just not what I'm going to enjoy. But I do want to back the dream. I really love the dream about this. It speaks a lot to what I do around the house here. And I guess my biggest frustration with this game and the campaign is that there's something here that hasn't got me to just go, I'm in, all in, take like $400, like just take all my money. Like, I don't know why I'm not there yet. Like, I should be, but I'm not. And
I wish I was. Yeah.
I know. Anna Marie, you've got that big smile. Are you telling me that Rob's going to wake up the next day and it'll be done all in with all the playmats too?
I'm there. I'm loving this campaign. My brain knows that I can't get the playmats. My heart wants them, but my brain is telling me no. So I will listen to that. But I think that exactly what Ryan's been saying this whole time, and Andrew had actually said it in that one podcast as well. It's like, this is a throwback to what Kickstarter was for, right? Like, it's a dream. It's trying something new, and I think what he's trying is so important, and I think it can be impactful if and the game, like I think the game is going to get made. I don't think it won't. I am just wanting people to back it. I want to get to that stretch goal so that they can be produced locally to show that it works. Like, I want this success for this one so bad, and I don't know. I'm there.
Well,
my brain.
What's happening on the local production front, and reading from updates and comments, it will be being produced in the U.S. There are enough backers. They will be producing in the U.S. The regional manufacturing across other regions is what they're still unsure of.
Yeah. And I hope we get there, that they can be done there as well. Because I think that's it's just something that I've been thinking for a while. Like, I wish we had it locally. Like, it would just make sense. But.
So, I don't know, did you have anything you want to add, Ryan? Because I can go into some of the issues of the board game producing and the card game producing.
My thoughts would just be reiterating.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why you don't have the production over here is just largely, part of it is labor laws, things like that. And that's okay. I do think that manufacturing workers do need to get paid very well for what they do. For the longest time, they weren't. And just because essentially with a lot of the systems that we have in place, manufacturing in North America costs a lot. I mean, in certain scenarios, people are essentially working for the company and then working for the people that negotiate with their company, which has just caused a lot of very high costs that make things difficult to manufacture easily. I mean, difficult to manufacture smaller scale stuff more easily. Also, it is the supply chains aren't there. For example, the supply chains to get the material to the factories in the quantities that they need to bring out those economies of scale just aren't in place. And that's unfortunate, because I think if everyone was using sustainable forestry products, a lot of those things would just exist. And these are areas where, if books were using more sustainable paper and other aspects are using more sustainable paper, or, packaging, we would just get a lot of this a lot cheaper. I mean, one of my favorite places to eat is A&W when I have to go out, because everything's compostable. But I mean, you go to McDonald's, like that film that he's talking about for his cards, why isn't that on all the McDonald's packaging? Why is that not all compostable? If companies were doing stuff like that, I think the cost of this game would be a lot lower in terms of sustainability, but it's just in general. And that's why everything's produced in China. They built those supply lines, they built those supply chains. Then they also can skirt with their very unequal friendly and unsafe labor laws, and then we get our products at a very cheap price. I think what we need is something more in the middle, but it's building those supply chains that is going to be the real tricky part. And I think we're still paying a lot for that. But I know we're talking about sustainability and going green. Everyone likes batteries, electric cars. It's a new thing. Cut down on emissions. How many emissions come from those mines where they're getting the stuff for your batteries? Are you actually getting ahead when you're switching from cars, electric to gas? And that's, so there's a lot of little things like that you have to take into account. And I don't know what the board game supply chain looks like exactly, but the primary reason for going to China is they just have the raw materials because of the size of the country and of the supply chains to get them to the factories cheaply, which is something that we no longer have in North America. It's why you can't build board games up in Canada, and just also our population. You're not going to manufacture enough games to distribute them unless you're, say, doing Monopoly. You could probably make Monopoly up here, and that's about it. Maybe a few other mass market games.
And I think that's why this is a good first step, right? Trying it out and getting feet wet, and then just seeing, like having it be a success and be like, okay, so we can do it more locally. It may not be in Canada, but North America, it's, I don't know. I think it's a good first step to test the waters and just, again, open eyes and see like, yeah, okay, maybe if we get more people doing it, like you said, building those supply chains and just got to start somewhere, right? So I think this is a good step in that direction.
Yeah,
I 100% agree.
Yeah, I'll go on camera. This will be the campaign that starts it all. We'll be talking about it again in what I'll say 8 years. 8 years. We're going to go back here and we'll say this is the campaign that started this new movement, and where most of our games on our shelves are now starting to have more sustainable components to them than they were before.
I hope so. That'd be so cool.
we have to. I mean, we've outsourced so much of our manufacturing that has become a problem. And there's reasons for that. And that's stuff that no one here on this podcast is qualified to solve, because there's good reasons why certain things happened because of the way workers were treated in the past. And now we're just left in a very complicated situation that eventually we're going to have to sort it out if we'd like to bring a lot more manufacturing back home and make sure that small companies that want to manufacture can be profitable for both themselves and their employees, and not have certain things happen that can just basically cut the legs out from underneath them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So where is everyone at on this campaign? So this has been a fun conversation. I'm really curious to know what's going on. I mean, is Anna Marie backing? I'm pretty sure she's backing at least the core pledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if this were any other game, like any I've been having a hard time connecting with what's going on here. Like I'm trying to, and I'm willing to get past my thoughts that this is beyond overpriced. Okay, so that's just where I'm at. But I'm willing to go get on board with her, and we'll pledge this. It can come. We're not going to get any of those mats or.
We might get a mat.
I don't know. We'll see.
I'm curious about the rubber. I wouldn't get the individual player mats. I'm not going there. Well, I might look at like the main one. Yeah. Maybe not. But I'm thinking what I'm looking to get is the core pledge, the expansion, like with the extra whatever it's called, and the playmats up in the air. Maybe not. Like my heart's not set on it. I'm just
regardless.
Yeah.
Legacy of the Ancestors campaign.
We may not get a couple things, but I'm willing to take a chance on this and give him the money and see what happens. Because I do believe in it. I absolutely do believe in what he's trying to do. But my value radar is going like red flag,
My value is just a shift. It's not focused on the, like cost per card. My value is I'm looking at more the big picture. I know you're saying that's where you're struggling, where your head is at.
Well, it's because I just look at it and I see a $55 game. Canadian is what I see, not an $80 American game. And so because I'm struggling with the value on this, I'm just willing to let it go, and we'll back it. We'll get the core pledge. We might add in a expansion or whatever, but yeah, I'm willing to go for it.
And after we do this, we'll come to our final thoughts about the excess or value on this, because I really want to get a nice summary, because I see a lot of value in the campaign, but I also personally see that there's a lot of excess that's here as well that could really be trimmed out and probably should have been to have a much more successful campaign. So go ahead, Ryan. Where are you?
Gosh, I'm right in the middle. I want to, for all the reasons that we've said, and then I don't want to for all of the reasons that have been said. I am right dead on the line here. I am currently at the $5 scout. I'm scouting. I'm testing the waters. I want to read more comments. I want to see more discussions. I want to see more gameplay of it all and everything like that. One of my original reactions was that I wasn't going to go in on this campaign because I could rather go play Skyrim. I could go play an open world RPG like game on my PlayStation and get probably just the exact same feel. But I don't know. I'm a sucker for the good underdog story. Everything. I do really want to see this take off. I do think that this is important for the gaming industry. So I am super 100% not decided whether or not I'm going in on it or not. Right now, I am $5 just paying attention. And 275 other people are with me in the in the scouting.
Well, they are starting, I believe, live playthroughs tomorrow.
Yeah.
So wanting to see more of the gameplay would be good. You can start that.
And I gotta say, Ryan, I'm with you. I'm at the $5 scouting pledge, and I was probably gonna stay there after this conversation and looking at the value. I actually want to pledge the $80 game. I want to move my pledge up. I think there's a lot to believe in. I do think that there's some funds that are helping build Earthborne Games, but you know what? That's fine. He wants to build a company. I feel like, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of the way the cost structure is laid out, but I'd like to see a little bit more of what I'm investing in. But I'll give Andrew the money and I'll take a chance on him at the $80. But my big question now is the gameplay. We didn't talk about it a lot, but that how to play video was lackluster. And watching Team Covenant play the game, like could really make it or break it for me. If I don't like what I see on the gameplay video, I'm going to be out of this, not because of the sustainability, not because of the cost, because I'm just going to look at it and be like, it's not going to get played. And I think there's a real risk of this not getting played. And I won't get the expansion. And I think we should do the breakdown of like excess and value right now. The expansion isn't worth it for me. Like, when we're talking about the excess and the value of the campaign, I only see value in that core pledge. Everything else I see as excess. If you're only getting $10 off MSRP, why get the expansion? I'll support a friendly local game store and I'll buy it from them when they get in the future. It's less money that I'm taking out of my pocket. And if I don't love the game after a full campaign, why do I want to have that expansion? Like, the whole plan is for this to come to retail. So I'm going to, expect it to come to retail, and I'll pick up a few of the other things later on. The mats.
I think that's what we will do.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. The mats, we've talked about it to death. I'd love to check out the rubber mat, but there could be something that was a little bit more, you're so high. Why don't you give us something that's cheaper to do the same task? And I can't see the tokens. The tokens and the card doubler, those are purely for card game enthusiasts that are going to go all in on this game. I think it might make things a little more well, not the doubler because they're already printing a bunch of the cards, but I do think it could make things a little more difficult in terms of getting stuff produced and getting the right economies of scale. I really would hate to see some of this stuff get cut later on because you don't get enough backers to follow through on it. So I do think that this campaign is swinging for the fences, but I really think that everything beyond the core box has become a little bit excessive. There isn't enough of a rebate or value in it that I think anyone should really back any of this extra stuff, unfortunately.
I agree with you.
I don't disagree at all. Yeah, no, like I said before, I think that there should be some kind of discount in that like all-in pledge. It shouldn't be the same as just buying them individually. And yeah, I agree.
A cardboard option.
Yep.
I think it would be a big hit with a cardboard option.
Absolutely.
Yeah. At most, I would just go core game and expansion. That would be the highest that I go. Nope, I'm not getting any of the superfluous. Wow, I tried to use a big word and failed. I'm not doing the excess stuff.
Yeah.
And we're the excess people. I mean,
we are.
I know, right? That says something.
This show is an evolution in our bagging styles.
Getting wiser and wiser at every episode.
Yes.
I needed this show about 3 years ago.
Yeah, it would have saved me a lot of painful purchases. But there we are, everyone. That finishes our conversation up on Earthborne Rangers. And I will make sure that on our next Kickstarter Excess or Value, or maybe we'll do a quick summary on this game and take a quick 10 minutes and convene and let everyone know where we end up. But I really think some of this gameplay footage is gonna push us over the edge where I'm usually able to not need it. I really absolutely need it with this game, which is the first, which just goes to show, I guess maybe I've played too many Braley and Adam Sadler games. I love them, but I have a lot of content that might be similar already. All right, so we promised it. We're going to follow up on our Chronicles of Drunagor pledge because, oh my God, the creative game studios take everything we said and then spun it on its head later by introducing so many pledge levels. It's just crazy.
Right?
Yes.
Right. Oh, this has got to be so torn.
So we're not going to go through all the pledges.
Oh, gosh.
But we'll have some examples pop up. But essentially, we do have a solid all-in pledge that actually does have a discount now. But what they've done to every pledge level is they have now added an easy pay option. So you pay $100 and then everything else comes out in monthly payments until you cover the amount of your full pledge. Which that got me, and I'll take the plunge. I just went all in. I took the all-in pledge. I'm getting everything. I was kind of leaning on towards everything. I have games I need to clear out. That's just even more motivation to actively sell some games because now I know every month if I sell $100 worth of game, I'm getting a game that I really want everything for. So
yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So what does that all in come to in Canadian?
Oh, it's still way up there.
Okay, so did you go gameplay all in or master all in?
Well, I went the master all in. I'm this guy. I love those.
Oh, really?
Oh, my.
Don't get me wrong. I want to. That's just a lot of money.
I'll point this out. One of the reasons why I was able to go at that level is there are 30 games sitting on my to sell shelf. So if I sell everything, and some of those games are not cheap, then it's covering this game. I have the stuff to move out the door. If I did not have the stuff to move, I would not be doing it.
Yeah, we have the opposite problem. We don't get rid of anything. And so this would just be coming straight out of the pocket. And
if I'm buying rubber playmats, then
it's going to be like $700 Canadian.
This gameplay all in has really got me tickled.
Gameplay.
The gameplay all in. I'm trying to just look. I wish I could have a side by side exact comparison of what am I missing out if from the master all in.
Is it just like the dice and the props? Is that kind of the main
thing? No,
it's
the dice, the props, it's the extra tiles to make your own dungeons. And then the main reason why I went in is because it has the hero trays. And I love my hero trays. So that just got me. I went in because I want the hero trays. I probably would want the it's got 3D. So I want the 3D terrain as well. And at that point you're at the point where you might as well get all of it. The same thing happened to me with Madara. I actually tried to not get the resin packs. I mathed it all out. The all-in pledge was cheaper with the resin packs in. So I just was getting too good of a deal. I was like, or it was something like $10 more. I'm like, I get 10 more models for $10 done, like all in. You got me.
No, I mean, that gameplay all in that's pretty tempting for
what you're getting.
For the amount of stuff you're getting at $500.
Yeah, you're gonna get a refrigerator box delivered to your house.
Yeah. That's not bad. It's not bad.
No, and even then, if you just wanted to do the reprint all in, I mean, with that payment plan, it makes things a lot easier. I know you don't like selling your games, but it might be time. There's got to be something on there. I mean, you look like you got more than I do, and wow.
I've got the Kingdom Death Monster sitting there in the shrink still. I'm sure someone would like that, eh?
That you know what? Sometimes it's paying me to let some of these big games go, but after having Battlestar Galactica unplayed for 15 years almost, when someone offered me $600 for something I spent $250 on, I go, okay, yeah, why not? Because I'm so afraid of playing the game. It's out of print. I'm like, what if someone spilled something on it? I'm like, I'm just going to look at him and I'm going to be like, you're dead to me. I don't think your mother, but you're dead to me look like.
Okay, wait. Am I misreading this? Okay, so reprint all in comes out to $339. I'm assuming US.
Yes.
US.
Or $422 Canadian.
Okay. And then the gameplay all in, which I'm assuming is going to get you all of the new stuff, comes out to $410.
Yes, because the reprint all in includes all of the trays that were in the original all in pledge. So you get the hero trays and the extra dungeon stuff.
The gameplay all in is way worth it compared to the reprint all in.
Yeah, because the gameplay all in is
that's what I just mathed out. That's what I just mathed out, dude. If you're thinking about going reprint all in, you may as well just go gameplay all in, especially since they have this easy pay system.
Yeah, $124 Canadian up front with the easy pay, and then it's 5 payments of $62.
Yeah, you just lose out on the plastic, the extra molded plastic, the game trays.
Yeah.
Which we just had a conversation about sustainability.
Yes.
However, no, we took off our sustainability hat and put it over here. Now we're talking about this.
But they're used to keep
Sorry, Anna Marie. If I can keep Battlestar Galactica for 15 years, I think I can keep this one for 20 years. So maybe it's not so bad. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
That is true.
Play all in. Okay,
that's not bad. When you look at the 124 Canadian and then 5 payments of $62 over 5 months, like.
Would you play that much content though?
Oh gosh, no. But I need to have it.
See, me and Ryan are very, very much on the same page here. The answer is no, but the answer is I want it.
But here's the thing, and I'm going to point this out because if you love the game, I think you'll play most of it. One thing I think that you won't touch are the extra heroes. You'll love having them. You'll never play them. It always happens. I have enough Zombicide to know. But on those campaign games, like I'm at 65 plays of Journeys in Middle-earth. And if this hits the way Journeys of Middle-earth did, I'm going to play through all of it. It'll take me a while. The annoying thing about the big Kickstarter boxes all arrives at once. So then you're like, must play all of it. And then you get sidetracked and forget to come back. So I like about Journeys with the retail releases that I get it. I play it. It goes back on the shelf. But it still has gotten me a lot of plays. And some of these smaller boxes aren't that long. So they do make it a little bit more manageable. But you got to get through that first big box.
But you got to give them props. Has any other crowdfunding campaign offered a monthly installment payment plan?
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
This has got to be revolutionary. See,
really helps.
Like Simon's watching this right now and saying, "Oh yeah, Masters of the Universe is coming out. Easy payment plans. Right? We're gonna get all of the monies
for a year, right? That's what it's gonna come down to."
And no interest. I mean, you typically have to go to Home Depot and get a credit card for no interest. There's no interest on this. It's
just straight up.
And I want you to buy our game. You're going to have troubles paying for it? No, you're not going to have troubles paying for it. We're going to make it a little bit easier. Oh, they've checked off all this stuff.
Yeah. I didn't see this coming, honestly. When I saw it, this payment plan, I was like, what? Really? This is a thing? Okay. It's worth looking at. It's worth revisiting, and I'm honestly with this gameplay all in. I'm very, very tempted.
When does it close?
I think we got 3 days.
3 days?
I don't think you'd be disappointed. And trust me, selling games, like it used to hurt a lot. Like it really did.
Or back to
you're starting a podcast, you're going to get some review copies. Not all your review copies will be your favorites. And
that's fair. That's fair.
It's a good thing to get into the habit of doing. I mean, one of the ones I sold Umbrella Academy really fast. I also sold Aliens Bug Hunt, which was actually a pretty fun game. But Julie and I sat down and goes, when will this be played again? And the answer was, it's at least a year away. And we knew we wanted to get Aliens Another Glorious Day in the core. So it was one of those things where it's like, why am I going to hang on to this for a year? I played it, we covered it, and I sold it for $5 less than what I paid for it. So I had my fun, and someone else now is enjoying the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, don't sell Red Rising, though. I see that in the background. That one, you got to...
Nope. No, we just played that just before we came on here. We played it.
Actually, we played that this weekend, too.
I'm jealous. We're playing Descent, though, so I guess I shouldn't be jealous.
That's fair.
I think a perfect example of a game that you might want to sell when you're done is Destinies. I don't know if you have Destinies, but
no, I've got it on pre-order. It's coming.
Well, from what I'm hearing about the campaign, it really sounds like you'll play that one, and you'll probably be a good one to pass on, because what are the chances you're going to replay that campaign anytime soon? And then you gotta.
I can answer that question. You'll play it with all the characters once, and you will never return to it.
Yeah.
But for $40, I mean.
Oh gosh, if we wanted to talk value, Destiny's had great value for what you got out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you guys pledging, or am I the only one getting Drunagor?
Oh, I've got gameplay all in here, just sitting. And my mouse keeps going, do I add it? Do I not add it? Do I add it? Do I not add it? Because it's either going to be gameplay all in or nothing.
Yeah, it's same with me, yeah.
But that payment plan makes it so
enticing.
Who could have ever thought about that? Like when I saw it, I'm like, wait, I can actually afford this Master All In, like without having to just be like, boom.
Boom. Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah, it doesn't come off of the blip on your credit card statement.
Yeah.
And I think the main reason for me also is I don't have much I want to buy at retail this year. Like there hasn't been a lot of games coming to retail. And what I'm seeing, at least that I want to buy, that I want to own, like for me personally, that Julie and I would play. I mean, I've got the Fast and the Furious games, but everything that I'm really interested in also seems to have a lower price point than I'm used to.
Nice.
So that is making this a little easier for me. Like, I don't know about everyone else here, but I'm buying Gargoyles Awakening when that hits like next month. A cooperative Gargoyles game based on the old animated show.
I
Like
was gonna say, based on the cartoon.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool.
Wait. I must be living under a rock.
I didn't know what it either.
I'm usually on the up and up too. What?
Yeah, Gargoyles Awakening. It is out as of, I think, today in Target only. It's coming soon by Ravensburger, and I believe it's a Prospero Hall design. So it's going to be right around that like $30 to $40 price point.
Yeah,
so
that's at Walmart.
Yeah.
It'll be everywhere. And I just saw Rodney post a video about it. I was like, what is this? And sure enough, it looks awesome.
This looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what I mean. The retail games that have just been like catching my eye, stuff that I'm going to buy and play multiple times, or even if it sits for a while and I'll come back. It's these types of games. So I can do Drunagor because I'm not buying like the big heavy Euros. I mean, I love them. I love when I can get to play them, but still not quite back to full in-person gaming. So it'd just be me and Julie, and yeah, we don't have time for those.
Okay, I'm keeping my eye out for this.
Yep, it looks good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Nice.
I haven't seen it.
Just bringing it up here for you.
All right. Well, I will stop trying to lure you over to the dark side. We got sidetracked there, but hopefully people enjoyed our fun new segment. It's just released not on Kickstarter. Maybe we should do retail access or value one day.
I feel like all I've been playing lately is Marvel Champions and Ashes Reborn and Arkham Horror. All of my gaming has been summed up into card games.
Just all the card games.
All of the card games.
Oh, you gotta love them. And you played Red Rising, which is also a card game.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think on that note, it's time to remind everyone to like, comment, subscribe, and check out the great video content and audio content from our guests. So down below in the video description, you'll find links to our social media feeds on Dice and Dragons. You can see what we're playing, pictures of Earthborne Rangers if we get it, pictures of Chronicles of Drunagor when it shows up, because it's definitely showing up. And then we'll talk about some of the other videos that'll be popping up. But before then, we're going to have our guests say their adieu. Yes, I'm in Quebec. I can speak French. Get over it.
Yeah, I've been Ryan from the Card Board Conjecture Podcast from Bridge City Board Gamers here in Saskatoon. We're active on Twitter and Instagram at BC Board Gamers, and then our podcasts, they land every Wednesday and every Saturday. Wednesday is the What You've Been Playing Wednesday podcast, where you can figure out what everybody else is playing lately, and then Saturdays is our Card Board Conjecture, where we offer our opinions and conclusions formed on incomplete information.
And I've been Rob.
And Anna Marie.
From the Meeple Dungeon, and you can catch us on Twitter and YouTube and on the What You've Been Playing Wednesdays podcast as well. And later this month on our own podcast. So that'll be happening in mid to late August. So
awesome. Can't wait for it. And then
follow BC Board Gamers on Twitch and YouTube every Wednesday.
That's right.
Where Rob and I are battling at Ashes Reborn.
Awesome. We'll make sure to add the Twitch link. I've got everything else. I don't think I've got the Twitch link, so that would be added. So you can take a look down below in the video description and you'll be able to check it out. And then popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of the previously released videos. We'll have a link to our most recent release and, of course, a link back to the Kickstarter excess or value playlist. I think this has been an interesting conversation, and we were all pretty much on the same page in a lot of ways, which was a lot of fun. And then if you're looking to pick up a new game, take a look down below. There's a link to multizone.ca, a great Canadian game store. Click that link, get 10% off your purchase. And it's a great way for you to support the channel because a portion of that purchase gets returned to us. So check them out. And now don't forget everyone to keep playing games.